In Chapter 11, we'll discuss hours of service. We are exempt from hours of service and record of duty status as a federal, local, or state agency. If you were a private carrier, this would apply to you. So all Class B drivers must know the hours of service requirements. In the event that you may drive for a private company, if you are a board or government employee, you still need to know this. So we're going to discuss this. Now, for property carrying drivers, there's an 11-hour driving limit after 10 consecutive hours off duty. Now you have a 14-hour driving window. So you have 14 hours to get in that 11-hour drive time following 10 hours off duty. That gives you time to do pre-trip, to clean the vehicle, to service the vehicle. It may include going to and from the drug testing location where you randomly pick. So there's extra time to do those duties as the employer assigns to you. But you cannot extend 11 hours of driving time within that 14-hour driving window. Now, the driving time does include sitting idle in traffic, so plan accordingly. There's a 30-minute driving break for property carrying drivers. You have to take at least 30 minutes when you've driven a period of 8 cumulative hours without a 30-minute interruption. There's a 60 to 70-hour driving limit. You may not drive after 60 to 70 hours on duty in 7 to 8 consecutive days. And a driver may restart that 7 to 8 consecutive days after being off 34 or more consecutive hours off duty. Adverse driving conditions, you get a 2-hour window that can extend your drive time if you were stuck in traffic or if there were adverse road conditions. There's a short haul exception that would negate keeping record of duty status or hours of service if you drive within 150 air mile radius of your work location where you report to, not exceeding 14 hours on duty. So basically, if you drive within 150 air miles radius of your reporting location and you don't exceed 14 hours, you don't have to keep hours of service or record of duty status. But if you go over that, you would be subject to keeping those requirements and keeping those records. Now, passenger carrying drivers have a 10-hour driving limit after 8 consecutive hours off duty, and there's a 15-hour window in which you can get those 10 hours in after 8 consecutive hours off duty. They also have the 60 to 70-hour limit. You may not drive 60 to 70 hours on duty in 7 to 8 consecutive days. There's also the adverse driving condition, 2-hour extra time in the event that you need it, and the short haul exception also applies. If there were an issue going over 14 hours, you would be required to keep those, but you still have the 150 air mile radius exception. There is a sleeper berth provision for both. For the passenger carrier using a sleeper berth, you must spend at least 8 hours in the sleeper berth, but you may split it with 2-hour minimum, provided that neither is less than 2 hours. So you can split it up, but it has to be at least 2 hours. Sleeper berth provision for property carrying drivers for 10-hour off-duty period, as long as at least 2 hours long, and involves the other 7 consecutive hours spent in the sleeper berth. Penalties for violating hours of service rules. Now, a driver may be placed out of service or shut down until they have accumulated enough off-duty time to be back in compliance. So state and local law enforcement officials may assess fines. The FMCSA may levy civil penalties on a driver or carrier, ranging from $1,000 to $11,000 per violation, depending on how severe the violation was. And your carrier may receive a downgrade rating for a pattern of violations. Federal criminal penalties can be brought against carriers who knowingly and willfully allow or require violations, or against drivers who knowingly and willfully violate the regulations. So you need to know these regulations so that you don't get penalized for them. You could lose money and you could be put out of service. So make sure that you are within the time frame so that you don't get flagged for an out of service violation or going over your hours of service.